What starts here changes the world. I have a few suggestions that may help you on your way to a better world. And while these lessons were learned during my time in the military, I can assure you that it matters not whether you ever served a day in uniform. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. During SEAL training, the students are all broken down into boat crews. Each crew is 7 students, 3 on each side of a small rubber boat, and 1 coxswain to help guide the dinghy. Every day, your boat crew forms up on the beach and is instructed to get through the surf zone and paddle several miles down the coast. In the winter, the surf off San Diego can get to be 8 to 10 feet high, and it is exceedingly difficult to paddle through the plunging surf unless everyone digs in. Every paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew, we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had 1 American Indian, 1 African American, 1 Polish American, 1 Greek American, 1 Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers.
Oh, hello everybody, and welcome to the CARES Project podcast. I'm here today with Ryan Matta. We are here to promote his new movie. He's doing a lot of work on exposing human trafficking and other abuses by the government and so forth. So, I mean, welcome to the show. Reintroduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, Dale, thanks for having me, man. I'm so excited to be here. I love coming on your podcast, and I greatly appreciate the fact that you always give me an opportunity. Anytime I got a new film coming out on child trafficking, you're one of the first people to hit me up and say, "Let's do this. Let's get out in front of it together, man." So I appreciate you. My name's Ryan Mehta. I'm a documentary filmmaker, investigative journalist. I've mainly specialized on government-funded child trafficking, specifically with HHS. That was my main thing, understanding how the 452,121 migrant children ages 0 to 17 arrived at our border without parents, and how our government could take physical custody of those and then deliver them to men all across America, and then somehow lose track of 350,000 children over a 4-year period. It just blew my mind. And I couldn't figure out, how did HHS and DHS, but specifically HHS, turn America into the child trafficking capital of the world? And I guess, well, come to find out, as soon as I start really looking down that rabbit hole, you eventually get to a point where you realize, oh, HHS is also over CPS, and it wasn't their first forte with trafficking children, right? The Office of ORR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, wasn't really the first organization in our government to traffic and move children. CPS had actually been doing it for pretty much 1997, when your favorite president, Slick Willie Bill Clinton, championed by Hillary Clinton, his wife, created what's called the ASFA Act. And that created this giant pool of money, which allowed, kind of like during COVID, if you look at it during COVID, when, in order for the federal government to have authority in your state because of your state constitution, well, we'll put up this big kitty of money, and we'll say, if you ratify your state constitution and you make it say A, B, and C, well, then we'll give you access to this big kitty of money. There was no organization that could fund the basically taking of children. There was no CPS at a state level because there was no funding for it. But our federal government said, well, we'll create the funding for it if you ratify your constitution. Each state did, which gave the federal government authority and more power than it should have ever had in the first place. And here we end up in this vicious cycle where now the federal government kind of gets their hands in it, and they put up the money, and then the state creates almost like a quota system. And if the sheriff's department wants to have access to their portion of this kitty of money, they have to physically separate X amount of children from their parents. You go, well, what if somebody's not a bad parent? Well, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to figure out a reason. They're going to make up a situation where, oh, yeah, you neglected your child because, I don't know, there's dirty dishes in your sink, or there's kids coloring on the wall, or you bought a new puppy and it just peed on the carpet and you didn't get it cleaned up within the first 5 minutes before a caseworker showed up at your house, right? Now you're an unfit parent. Oh, and then well, at the very least, you just got to take your kid to the doctors, right? And then you go into the doctors and your kid's completely fine, but maybe they got a bruise in their shin, or maybe they had an upset stomach and they missed a few days of school. And then the doctor's like, well, I'm looking at your medical record. It's showing your kid doesn't have all of his vaccines. You're like, yeah, I stopped vaccinating him after 3. I just don't trust those vaccines anymore. Oh, you're one of those parents. Well, maybe your kid has an upset stomach because he's getting sick all the time because he hasn't had his vaccines. Well, now you're a neglectful parent. And then it becomes your word as the parent versus a doctor. And these doctors basically become these untouchable messiahs in the court system. I mean, they're more powerful than the judge. They're more powerful than the attorneys. They're more powerful than the parent, because the doctor always knows what's in your best interest, right? The doctors would never lie to us. And so it's like, I don't know where you want to start, brother, but we can go at it all. So that's it.
Oh, sorry.
I lost you.
Yeah. I like talking to myself sometimes. I forgot to unmute myself.
Yeah.
It goes deeper than this. I was actually looking at the funding for HHS, and they actually fund some tribal family courts and other family courts as well. So when you're looking at the fact that they're giving grants to courts, this is a huge conflict of interest, especially when they're funding the agencies that are stealing children. Like the whole when you look at the family court system, which is part of the CPS sort of aspect, they are completely unconstitutional. They have no jury trials. They have inquisition type practices because they do things ex parte. There's no due process. You're guilty until proven innocent. The government comes in and says, we're taking your child. And then you have to prove that you have a reason to have your child, but they're the ones who's supposed to prove that they have a reason to take your child. Right? This is insane. Absolutely insane.
Dale, I've been on 4 of these shows today, and you're the first one to bring that up. And that is such a good point. In the eyes of CPS, when it comes to them taking your child at gunpoint. You are guilty until proven innocent. They can come and take your child without a warrant, right? A lot of people just don't realize that. A caseworker shows up and then shows up with a sheriff, and they said, "We're here to take your kid." Most people don't realize that they have the right to say, "You don't have a warrant. You're not taking anything. Get off my property." A lot of people are like they're nervous. They don't want to get. They think they're going to get arrested, but they don't know their rights, and they just use the color of law to intimidate you. And sometimes they will actually have the warrant to take the child. A lot of times they won't, and they'll just arrest you and they'll just take your child. So it's like the system is so broken. And then after they take your child at gunpoint, they use the judge to put a gag order on you. And then now you can't speak out or even fight. And then they also, on top of that gag order, most people say, "Screw it, I'll take whatever charges I'm going to fight to save my kid." Well, are you, if you haven't seen your kid in a week, and now it's, oh, your supervised visits are going to be taken away. And then they're going to use that as a weapon against you to say, "Hey, you can't even follow simple rules. You're with the court system. You're definitely not fit to be a parent." 480,000 children a year, 480,000 are taken from American children, or are taken from parents. According to an own internal study done by CPS in 2019, 83.3% of the time that year that CPS took children from parents, they didn't have a leg to stand on. Like, if you actually followed the legit laws and actually did everything the way that they were supposed to do it, they would have found out that was actually a good parent. 54% of the time, a child never sees his parents again. That's 215,000 children a year that are ripped from loving parents' arms. And then 54% of those never see their child again. That's over 110,000 children that should have never been taken in the first place that now never see their children again.
Dude, I understand this. I have firsthand experience with this. My oldest daughter was taken by Child and Family Services in Winnipeg without provocation, was never given a reason. I lost all parental rights. I had to fight 3.5 years to get her back. And I put them really quickly with a whole lot of accountability to a bunch of parties in basically one day. After that, they were like, absolutely not. They gave my kid back because I documented everything and showed them step by step how they violated my rights and violated the charter here in Canada and so forth. And I'm like, they need to be investigated. And they were like, nope, give the kid back. So I got custody of my kid, full custody, and they were molesting her while she was in care. So, and they sex traffic kids. Like where I was from in Winnipeg, they were putting kids in hotels and they were being trafficked in those hotels. Front page of the news. You know what they did? They did it again. They never stopped because they have they're government gangsters. 100%.
Yeah, dude. And like you said it, when it comes to CPS and they take your child, you are guilty until proven innocent. There is no due process. They create these made up laws. And if you don't follow them and you don't jump through the hoops that they set for you, they are going to take your child for something as simple as your kid missing 5 days of school throughout a school year.
Yes. You know what? When I watch the actions of CPS and the way that they are in the court systems, this is exactly the type of treatment that the J6ers received. They were guilty until proven innocent.
It's funny you say that because, when it comes to these missing 350,000 migrant children, according to Tom Holman, on December 14th of 2024, our government had taken possession of the 452,000 migrant children. I have 452,000, 350 of them. They vetted the adult that they give them to, and then they lost them. They could no longer, they tried to do the wellness check or the wellness call, and they couldn't locate the adult or the child, okay? Since Trump's taken office, this is over, 10 or 11 months now, they've only found roughly 30,000 of these children.
A lot of them are dead.
I just had the same authority that the FBI had to go after the January 6ers, and I had the exact same amount of resources, I would have brought home at least 50% of those children. At least 175,000, if not close to 300,000 of them. Whatever amount was alive, I think I would have been so loud, and these families and these traffickers would have been so terrified. I would have said, listen, I would have put out an all-point bulletin the first day saying, hey, you have a child, you have 7 days to come in here and take a DNA test to prove that you are a relative of that child. If you cannot do so, we are going to hunt you down. If you come in and just voluntarily turn over the child, and you may have been trafficking them, I will give you the opportunity to flee. I will give you a 7-day head start to get the hell out of America. And if you could have all that's all you're getting. You make it out of the country, adios, amigo. If you don't, I am going to hunt you down with the fullest extent of the law. And when we find you, it's life in prison, right? We are gonna throw the full weight of the justice system at you. We're gonna put you in the worst prison conditions. We're gonna actually get ready. My JD Vance, my homie, my vice president, is gonna be building mega prisons just like Bukele in El Salvador. And actually, you know what? We're gonna help them. We just funded an initiative with all this money that we were spending on all these NGOs that were trafficking children. We're now going to spend it building mega prisons in El Salvador just to support all the traffickers that we get. And you guys are going to be doing life in prison in a cockroach-infested hellhole in El Salvador. And you're going to be a slave working on the chain gang, building new roads and infrastructure and school books across El Salvador. And that's if you're lucky. That's if they let you out of the cell for more than 1 hour a day. But either way, you can rot in a cell. And I would have had the traffickers literally handing over the children. We had every address. We had every phone number, every line of communication. So they all had burner phones, right, where they communicated with HHS back and forth for weeks, if not months, going back and forth with the caseworkers as they're filling out applications, as they're doing background checks, as they're doing wellness checks on the child. All of that was done. All of that was recorded on government cell phones via WhatsApp. We had all their geolocation data. We know exactly who that cell phone was calling in Mexico, who was calling in America. We had all those locations. We had the address that they provided us, which most likely was a fake address. But with all of that information and AI at our fingertips and the right resource, I would have been pulling back troops from these third world countries that we don't belong to be in the first place. And I would have been building literally a human trafficking task force specifically designed to hunt down these traffickers that took these migrant children. And I would have brought them all home. It's not even questionable. And the fact that Trump's only brought 30,000 of them home, and out of that 30,000, there's already been like dozens that have been wound up dead, that we found children dead that our government took physical possession of. And don't even get me started on the Pam Bondi, right? So many of before these children even got released to that adult, right? So many of them are getting raped or sexually assaulted. You got to cut that out. Sexually assaulted by the employees at these facilities, right? At these NGOs, at Southwest. Merrick Garland had to file a lawsuit, and Pam Bondi, her first month in office, drops this massive lawsuit against all these NGOs.
Okay, yeah, okay, we have to understand, and this is what like J.J. Carroll said, the United States government is the largest child trafficking organization on planet Earth. In any given country, your government is the largest child trafficking organization in your country. Like, you got to get this through your thick skull. Like, even with my daughter's case, the way that she was brought into the United States by a guy who sexually assaulted her, handed over CBP, taken into custody by ICE, forced to live with single American men where she was drugged, beaten, raped, and trafficked, is exactly what they do to these migrant children. And they put them in these coercive conditions. And here in Canada, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police are involved in child trafficking. Like they had in England, the rape gangs, the police force were raping the girls. It's the same thing happening here in Canada. And I guarantee you it's the same thing happening in the United States. This is insane.
Exactly. And the fact that that's why the title of the film is Never in America, right? Like, it's very clear because the amount of times that I hear, like you're talking about something that happened over in Germany, or like the Muslim rape gangs or the Pakistani rape gangs in the UK, and you're just like, oh, that would never happen in America. Yeah, we thought that until we saw Venezuelan gangbangers with AR-15s going door to door in Colorado and saying, you no longer pay rent to so and so or this corporation or this company. We'll be here on the first of every month to collect your rent. And then we saw what happened when somebody tried to lock their door. They came up with AR-15s, they had handguns, and the Venezuelans were literally kicking in the door. And then the FBI tried to show up the next week and say, well, this isn't happening here. This isn't happening here. What do you mean it's not happening? We watched it all happen live on X. Like, it's like the Charlie Kirk assassination. Don't even get me started on that. It's just like, it's disgusting, man.
It's like, for example, like Kash Patel came out and talked about that Canadian guy. I can't keep forgetting his name. He was an Olympic athlete. My daughter knows. But anyway, he was running $1 billion cocaine operation right here. And they had a website here in Canada where they were doxing federal witnesses, and they got assassinated, and witnesses and whistleblowers got killed. The police were aware of this and they did nothing. And then the RCMP didn't even communicate with the United States when they wanted to deal with like the fentanyl coming across the border and these other guys bringing these trucks full of cocaine across the border, right? Because they would work with the Indian gangs. and so forth from Southeast Asia to bring them over here to do their filth. And they blocked them from doing this. So you're watching law enforcement agencies under controls of cartel in Canada is a narco state. It is fully under control of the cartels. Every level of government. The CCP is running all the fentanyl and everything like that. And where drug trafficking is, human trafficking goes hand in hand, 100%.
Yeah, just look at what we saw with in California, right? In the 70s and 80s. The CIA wanted to traffic heroin and crack cocaine into the black neighborhoods. So what did they
Yes.
do? Well, the California, the LAPD couldn't be the ones that were, you know what I'm saying? They couldn't be busting the drug dealers because they were CIA operatives. So in order to literally destroy the black man and the black family and the black nuclear family and turn some of the most beautiful, thriving, segregated at the time, right? Like you look at the whole civil rights movement. Well, why did that really start? Well, because the black banks were becoming more successful than the white banks. The education system for the blacks, right? When it was just segregated, the success rate or the education rate of a black child was actually outpacing that of a white child. So then we went to war with them. Let's just sell crack cocaine in there. The CIA took over. They had undercover operatives that became local cops that worked their way up to the ranks, and they took over the LAPD so that way they could turn LA into this hellhole that it is today. And it all started with this war on the black family and the black nuclear family.
And this is one of the things that people don't want to talk about. Black people had more experience with the Marxism because they brought it first to the Native Americans, then they brought it to the black people. The black people were just like, screw that noise. We're not doing it, right? And so if you go through that type of stuff, then you become stronger. And this is what they did not want, because then they would teach everybody else not to do this. And they would have been like, not today, Satan. So this is why they want to keep people divided, because they would learn from each other, because everybody has an issue to bring that they've overcome from this disgusting government that is raping kids. Like at the end of the day, I don't trust any government. I trust your actions. And if your actions are leaving children to get raped, I don't care. Like there's a problem.
Bonnie Rice is the world's leading expert in at least in America on child trafficking, specifically through CPS and through the foster care system, and then through HHS. She was one of the HHS whistleblowers that came forward and spoke out against this, right? And we were doing Twitter Space when my last Operation Amber Alert film launched. It was going crazy viral, and everybody was talking about it. And Bonnie Rice came forward, and she was in a Twitter Space, and they were talking about, this was kind of closer to Trump getting elected and Trump coming back into office. I think Trump actually won the election, and then we were kind of still talking about, are they actually going to let him get inaugurated on January 20th? And she goes, and I was saying about how Trump's going to come in and save all these children. She goes, Ryan, it's just not going to happen. She said, I know you want to be optimistic, but I've been here doing this for the last like 20 or 30 years, and every president promises the world and nobody actually does anything. And she goes, from what I'm seeing from Trump, like, she goes, just to build out the facilities that you would need to take in all of these migrant children if they rescued them, right? She's like, you're a 6 to 12 month process of just training the staff properly so that the children aren't getting molested, right? Vetting the proper employees, getting the right people in place. And she goes, I'm not seeing any of that. So I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then what happens if these children that were in this system have been molested, and then you're just going to deport them? And she goes, well, what about the children that arrived here when they were 15, and by the time Trump takes office, they're 18? So they're no longer a minor in the system. And what if they ran from the system that they were in? They escaped and they ran away. They turn 18. Well, now they're just an illegal immigrant in our country that's undocumented. And then when we arrest them, instead of actually hearing them out and letting them, basically file charges against whoever they need to file charges against, they're just going to get deported.
They're throwing, and the government, the guys that are involved in the government that are trafficking, they're deporting the witnesses. They're reporting the whistleblowers. And this is what's happening, right? Because my daughter, when she came back to Canada, she was never grabbed by a government agency. She was brought across the border by a private citizen. And then the border guards that were involved in trafficking her are the ones who are saying you can't come back. So that's a conflict of interest, because the CPP officers at Sweetgrass were the ones who started the ball rolling, and they're involved. And I'll tell you this right now, that the government, it doesn't matter who goes in. Like when people talk about Trump, I said, listen, even if Trump is the most well-intentioned person, you have a whole system of pedophiles and traffickers that are embedded in every level of government on the federal, state, and municipal level that are all going to be pushing against this. The only how this changes is when people understand that they need to take personal responsibility and start exercising their will and make sure that those people that are raping kids, because I don't care if you're facilitating or if you're actually the rapist or the trafficker, you're all rapists of kids because you're helping the process to go until the people start making sure that these people feel the heat, then nothing's going to change. It's up to the people. I don't give a damn what anybody's doing up there because you need the will of the people to be exercised. Otherwise, these people, they're not going to do anything. They're gangsters.
You know, it's funny. Yeah, exactly. Like Cash Patel, right? Cash Patel writes a book called Government Gangsters and lectures us for basically 4 years about how, how we need to get Trump back into this administration so we can take down these government gangsters. And then Cash Patel, like, is pretty much, and Pam Bondi are pretty much the ones, not pretty much, they are now at this point, stonewalling the Charlie Kirk assassination and then also simultaneously covering up the Epstein files. And it's just like, we can't even get Jeffrey Epstein, supposed to be dead. The man's not even alive. Why would it matter what information gets out on that guy? We can't even get accurate information on Jeffrey Epstein, one of the most prolific child rapists or child sexual abusers and human traffickers of all time, child traffickers. Because what? Because there's how many of our politicians are on camera, or how many of the most powerful people on the board of directors of these organizations, these companies, these corporations. It seems like there's this giant pedophile network that preys on the most vulnerable children all over the world. And somehow they're able to gain access and maintain this power to where we can't get the Epstein list. I mean, look at MTG, look at Thomas Massey, look at Rand Paul, look at the people fighting for the Epstein list, fighting to expose AIPAC. And they become public enemy number one. And then you have President Trump's out here endorsing Lindsey Graham. Like, Lindsey Graham's the new MAGA. Speaker Johnson's the new MAGA. Laura Loomer's the new MAGA. I mean, Laura Loomer definitely was always the most diehard Trump loyalist. And now she's got press credentials in the Pentagon, but she can't even own a firearm because she's not mentally stable enough to. So, like, I don't understand what happened to this administration. I don't understand what happened to the America First, pro America, America only, like no more foreign wars, mass deportations, political arrest. We're going to abolish the IRS. We're going to audit the Fed. To now we have and spending packages, term limits. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. And all we got is a bunch of executive orders. And then the only bills that we actually get to the floor are bills that are pro-Israel. I don't know, man. At some point, you just get to the point where, like, you just can't take it anymore.
Like I told people, I said, this is always about the people. I said, the United States Constitution begins with we the people. It doesn't say we the government. The people are the government. And the government only governs. They get their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now, people need to stop looking for a savior. And I was saying this from the beginning, that you have the right to instruct your government and tell them what to do. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says that the government has the right to deny your constitutional rights, because their job is to protect and safeguard your rights and to ensure that justice is done and law and order is maintained. That is it. Outside of that, you need to stay out of my life. And if you don't, then there's the door. The problem is that people are not giving them the consequences. And this is what they need to get. They need to have consequences. They need to have the fear of consequences so that they're going to start flying right. Because this is an issue. And when you're raping kids, I got no love for you. I got no patience whatsoever. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute abomination. CPS was an organization that was literally designed to take in and help the most vulnerable children. And now what we've created is an organization that's literally designed to prey on women and children. It's literally designed, like, if you're a pedophile now, you don't have to figure out how you're going to molest your niece or your nephew, right? You don't have to figure out how you're going to kidnap, the neighbor's kid down the street. All you have to do is play your cards right and just get a job at one of these government organizations. And then within X amount of period of time, you're going to have access to the world's most vulnerable women and children. And it's absolutely disgusting. And I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know how much longer the American people are just going to sit by and let this happen. I mean, eventually I feel like they're going to take the wrong kid, which is what happened during the Baby Cyrus trial, right? Like, I mean, think about how long it took, 480,000 children a year, and we haven't heard a second Baby Cyrus story. Why is that? They're just very good at what they do. They're very good at preying and picking the right families. And it's almost like they target the ones that are the poorest. They target the ones that don't have the resources, and they know that can't fight back against the system. And once they have your child, I mean, you pretty much have to dedicate years of your life. And if you work a 9 to 5 and you don't have a ton of money in the bank, I mean, it's pretty much game over. You might as well kiss your child goodbye because
This is why COVID was such a huge thing. And I told people that it was a massive human trafficking organization because it wiped out people's wealth like crazy. Poverty is critical to human trafficking because you've left them with no options. And when you do that, then you're able to traffic them. It's like I know this personally because I was wiped out financially by the government, lost everything in one day, had nothing but the shirt on my back. Can't see my little daughter. Haven't seen her for 5 years. My oldest daughter got trafficked. She was put in situations where I couldn't help her because I was broke, right? And I watched this happen to people where they were wiped out, and the government, using the lawfare, also wipes them out even further to take their kids. Because what they were doing to the J6ers and putting their kids in that situation, when the fathers were in jail, the mothers were working their hind parts off. Perfect opportunity to come in and take your kids. You don't like what you say? Too bad. And anybody else who's going through that, people who are going through the COVID issues, sorry, everything else, prime candidates. And then they started to push this grooming tactics into overdrive during COVID in the schools, making it ripe. And now if you don't go along, toe the line for this filth that they're teaching in the schools, they're going to take your kids. And what are they going to do? The kid's going to get trafficked. Done. Like, this is disgusting.
and it's crazy to think about. Like, right when I first went down and I remember going and I had, so when I, this all craziest part about this is, right, like, I'm a political lifer, right? I wasn't in this movement, 5 or 10 years ago. I didn't start in this until YouTube demonetized my YouTube channel in 2022. It was almost 2023 when I first had that first wake up call. And that's 3 years ago. So in a 3-year period, I went from knowing nothing about politics. Went from knowing nothing about child trafficking to being one of the world's leading experts specifically on government-funded child trafficking, like these apparatus. And it's crazy, as America is one of the only countries that has this specific type of apparatus where they're kidnapping and trafficking this many American children, right? Colombia has something similar, but the poverty levels are way worse. Like here in America, you could be a middle-class family and you could do nothing wrong as a parent, and they can come now take your child because, like you said, you have no rights. You're guilty until proven innocent. And the justice system is completely rigged against you. It's designed for you to fail. It's designed for you to have no legal avenue and no legal rights to fight for your child. And I could see, like, if you're a really bad parent, you're, on crack and you're on drugs, and there's just a legit reason. Like, yes, we need to take those children away from their parents. But the ones that are actually good parents, like, you go into some of these third world countries that I've been in, and they live in the poorest, most abhorrent. Like, if you even thought about living in those conditions here in America with a child, they would come and take your child. But the government doesn't want to raise your kid for you because there's not enough money. If the government just stays away, they can pocket all that money, which they do in these third world countries. Like, the government steals from the people insane amounts of money, but they just let the children and the parents suffer in whatever conditions they live in. But it's crazy as I meet these children in the poorest, worst areas in the world, and they're some of the happiest children that you meet.
Yes.
You don't have to have $1 million to be a great parent, right? You could have a pot to piss in. You could have dirt floors in your house, right? In Madagascar, if your child needs a 50-cent antibiotic, and you can afford to get that antibiotic for your child dies. Okay, so, like, the government there is completely disattached. In El Salvador, when they rounded up, the 84,000 or 88,000 gangbangers, they arrested the mother and the husband if they were both drug dealers or they were both in the cartel. And in El Salvador, it wasn't uncommon for one man to have 5 girlfriends or 5 wives, and each one of those wives have 10 or 25 children with each, or sorry, 5 or 10 children with each wife. So when you arrest a husband and a wife, you also might be orphaning 25 children from one man, literally.
Yes.
So you had this huge, massive amount of basically abandoned children, and the government didn't step in to take care of those children. They were just basically up there to fend for themselves. That's why when you talk about all of these children coming from basically out of the 452,000, a majority of them came from a few countries. El Salvador is one of them, and it wasn't because there was this big trafficking operation. It was just because Bukele arrested all the cartel members, and the cartel members had a lot of kids, and those kids are 14 or older. It was just common knowledge for them just to walk and leave the country and try to make a better life for themselves in Mexico or make it to America. And if they could make it to America, they had a shot at the American dream. Well, once they made it out of El Salvador, they hit an NGO, and the NGO saw the dollar signs. It was like, oh yeah, kid, we'll help you get to America. Here's an iPad. Here's some candy. Here's some clothes. Here's some gum. Here's some food. Here's one of those R kits. So there's a condom and some lube and some other some plan B in case you get sexually assaulted and you need any of these things, because there's a high probability that's going to happen. We're going to give it to you, so that way maybe you can ask the trafficker or the bad guy to put on a condom before he sexually molests you. And that's our foreign aid, as you will.
Oh Jesus, this is disgusting. And
it's so beyond disgusting, man.
You know what I also we want to touch on while we're at it, how social media and the media is used to conceal the trafficking. Because there are people that go out and all the people that are reporting on trafficking, they're getting assaulted online. Every single one. People that talk about child trafficking, this is like the sacred cow that nobody should be speaking about. They get attacked, they get assaulted, people try to come forward, they get ambushed, and everything else like that. This needs to change, because I honestly wonder how many people are getting funding to do this, because I have to sit down and question what rational man excuse me, or woman is going to look at child trafficking and attack the people that are exposing it, or attack the people who are victimized by it. I don't know how that makes sense. I don't.
Yeah, think about that. Think about, I don't know if they're financially invested or what the reason is. You look at something like Sound of Freedom. Remember when Sound of Freedom was releasing? And every movie theater across the world, across the country, was saying that people were showing up and like, hey, I want tickets. Like, oh, sorry, it's sold out. Oh,
Yeah.
it's sold out. And then people are like buying tickets to another movie, and they're like, wait, we don't see anybody going into that theater. Let me just take a look. And they would open the door and the theater would be empty. It's like they were faking that the movie was sold out so that they couldn't sell tickets because they didn't want people to learn about it. And it's like, how? And then, well, who owns the media? Who controls Big Pharma? Who controls our government? And it's always the same entity that controls all of these things. And they obviously have such a stronghold on our country that if they can control all that, and they would want to, right? The fact that they would do something like that shows you just how evil and sinister these type of people are, and what lengths they're willing to go to prevent you from hearing the truth.
Well,
So it's like, I don't know, man.
They have a large network of like-minded individuals. Because I'm sorry, any rational person with any type of conscience could never take money to rape kids. I'm sorry.
Never.
Right? So this there is something fundamentally wrong with you if you can accept money or whatever it is to allow children to get raped, because this is a massive problem. Because they talk about Epstein, and Epstein was bad. But there's 1,000 Epsteins in America right now as we speak. There are Epsteins in every pretty much state, every neighborhood, because they have some child trafficking kingpin everywhere. This is so institutionally ingrained into our system. It is disgusting. It needs to be burnt to the ground, and they need to be taken out, every single one of them. And if you're involved with this, like they should all be charged. And you're a government official, deprivation of rights under color of law and given the death penalty, right? Because you need aggravating factors for abusing government power to rape kids. Sorry. Not even sorry. Too bad. Right?
Yeah, there's no need to be sorry. These are the most evil, sick, vile creatures, right? And I think God was very specific about the wicked, right? People are like, oh, as a Christian, you're supposed to be forgiving. Jesus Christ wanted us to forgive. Yeah, maybe Jesus did. But I think God was very specific, right? If you so much as harm one hair on their head or lead them to stray to a point where they sin, or you take away their innocence, right? You are better off having a millstone cast around your neck, a millstone hung around your neck, and then cast yourself into the depths of the sea. Meaning one of the 7 deadly sins is committing suicide, right? So God's telling you that you're better off putting a millstone around your neck and casting yourself into the sea than you are coming to see him. Meaning you're going to go straight to hell and you're going to feel the wrath of Satan. And that is better than what it would be if you came to me, because the Lord should have no mercy. He does have no mercy on the wicked. When you are taking the innocence of a child, when you are a grown man and you physically assert yourself into one of these poor, fragile little children, and you cause them to sin, you are the wicked. You are the worst among us, right? And when you talk about pedophilia and child rape and child sexual abusers, you can take a serial arsonist who literally masturbates outside of burning a house down and gets his rocks off. That man can be sent to prison, and with incarceration and proper counseling, he can be rehabilitated, introduced back to society, and he will not repeat offend. A serial killer, literally Charlie Manson, right? Him with enough time in prison can be rehabilitated, reintroduced back into society, and he will not repeat offend. A pedophile, a child sexual abuser, an adult sexual abuser, okay? Those people will repeat offend 100% of the time, okay? So like if you're an intelligence agency and you find somebody that's into pedophilia and you give them the access to the child, and then you cover up the crimes they commit, right? I almost say it's like build the pedophile, feed the pedophile, control the pedophile. And that's what our government's become. It's like our intelligence agencies they find the sickest and the evilest, right? And then they feed them and they protect them, and then they use them to do their bidding.
Yes.
And that's why every intelligence agency in America, every 3-letter agency here in America that we thought was created to protect the American people was really created to protect the people that are stealing our money.
Yes.
You can go to the SEC, the CTF, CDC, the FDA, the CIA, the FBI, the CPS, right? All of these organizations were supposed DHS. We got the Patriot Act, we got DHS, and now we're installing biometrics because it's for your safety. It's like nobody wants this.
I will go to everybody and I will challenge them to go and look at the affiliations of the people who were at the inception of every 3-letter agency in the United States, especially all of like the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. Go look at them and you will start to begin to understand how this works. Because, and yes, you're correct that the intelligence agencies were there to protect the people who are stealing our money, and the people who are stealing our money are the ones who are involved in child trafficking and drug trafficking. This is the CIA, all the intelligence agencies, they're all involved in drug trafficking and they're all involved in human trafficking. Every single last one of them. And they're protecting the people, and they'll make these little busts here and there, but that's it. But this is what, and going back to what the Bible says, for Baal and Moloch worship, which is also pedophilia, it's both raping and killing kids, right? The penalty was death. If you saw it and you did nothing, you also receive the death penalty, because you cannot sink any lower than preying on the weakest, most vulnerable members of the human race. You have the character of the devil, and that is not to be tolerated. I am sorry. I'm not sorry. Too bad. You're not tolerated. None whatsoever. I agree with God on this one. You do it, death penalty. You see it, do nothing, death penalty. End of story. That's it.
Yep, I'm with you, Dale. And that's why if you guys actually go to www.operationamberalert.com, which is my website, we have a petition right now. The one at This Is Treason, we got up to like 12 or 13,000 signatures. On this one, we're trying to get up to 1 million, right? The first website, we were trying for 10 million. I thought for sure, my film's going to go so viral. We've gotten, 10 million views on my films before, and we've only gotten 13,000 signatures. So if you guys can swing over to operationamberalert.com, we have a petition that is calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty in all 50 states for child sexual abuse. And we're also calling for expedited trials, right? If there's video evidence, if there's DNA evidence, if you filmed yourself molesting a child and then there's DNA evidence and the child was in your possession after they were kidnapped and taken from their loving parents and chained in your basement, you don't get a 14-year appeal process, right? You get one trial, it's swift, it's speedy, all the evidence is presented, and you end up 6 feet deep. It's that simple.
I,
You don't get the right. It's like
if you
the
get caught,
system here is,
if you get caught in the act, just do everybody a favor, shoot them on the spot. Honestly, because if you're on top of a woman or a man, grown adult, then you have to find out if there was consent. But if you're on top of a child, there is no excuse. You have no reason, no justification. I would just say, deal with it right there. Right? Save
look
everybody
at
the money.
these 12-year-old girls that show up impregnated at a hospital and they take the DNA of the child and it matches the mother. Like you could tell by that it's a relative right there just by DNA testing the child. You go right home, you arrest that man. You know who it is. If it's the father, DNA test, that man should be put out right then and there. You shouldn't get a second chance, right? That's so like there's so many simple cases. And we look at, like you go into every airport and you see a sign that's like, see something, say something, stop human trafficking. And then I went over to Africa and these Asian countries and you find out how they're actually trafficking these girls around. It's they convince them that they're going to go to Asia and work as somebody's girlfriend. And in order to go there, they need passports, right? Well, a lot of these girls live in third world countries. So they don't have internet. They don't have a phone. They don't know what a computer is. They don't know what a visa application is. So the trafficker says, hey, we'll do all this for you. We'll get your passport, your documents. We'll pay for you to travel. We'll get you into this other country. And then once they get into that other country, they go, oh, well, you only bought a 1-month visa package. You got to renew it with us every month. It's because the girls are offered a 1 month, a 3 month, or a 1 year. And most of the girls think, oh, that 1 year is $10,000. That's so much money. I'll just take the 1 month for $5,000. I'll make it off. I'll pay off the debt I owe. And then I'll get my passport, my documents, and I'll be good to do it myself. They never do it. It's always a renewal process. So each time you got to renew it, you owe the trafficker another $2,000, another $2,000, another $2,000. So it keeps them in this rat race of just constantly paying off this debt, trying to make enough money to pay off their trafficker. And then they all get to a point where they want to go home, but they think that they can't leave because they don't have their passport. So like we could do something, instead of saying, say something, see something. Do you owe somebody money that brought you to this country? Did they take your passport? If so, contact a local police officer and tell them this, and we'll immediately get you help. We'll get you support. We'll get you a ride home. Like there is so much we could do for these poor little girls that would pretty much put a massive dent in this, but we're not serious. We're not serious about ending human and child trafficking.
But this is the problem with the trafficking. And this is where, even with my daughter, has run into with the reporting of her trafficking. They're talking about jurisdiction, and then they block you from doing this. My daughter has videos of the rapes that these people were distributing for profit, and they won't take it. And they're all talking about jurisdiction. Oh, we don't need to do this, or we don't need that. This didn't happen in my jurisdiction, so you need to contact them, this and that. So everybody's playing this game. They're allowing the traffickers to walk away. And then when you have it crossing borders, then they don't even want to touch it even more. Because then when you have to send information, then you have to send it through Interpol. And then everybody in the world can sit down and see what grimy nonsense they're doing over here in North America when they're trying to act like they're the righteous saviors and the champions of being against child trafficking, when we are at the pits of hell when it comes down for child trafficking. Worst child trafficking problem is here in North America. 100%. Most money being made is right here, over on this side of the world where there's supposed to be the most freedom.
Man, Dale, you couldn't have said it better, brother. And I gotta kind of wrap it up here, man. But I just wanted to tell you and your audience, how much I appreciate you guys. You have no idea how hard. You would think that every major media outlet in America, when I drop a film like this, or I drop a film on trafficking of the migrant children, like I would be the first person to be like, my phone should be blowing up all day, from Newsmax, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, Alex Jones, all of them. Alex actually does bring me on. InfoWars a lot brings me on, especially when Owen was there. But it's not, right? So I have to rely on people like Dale, right? And these independent outlets, and God bless Lindell for TV and everything that you do over here to give me a voice, because without you guys, I would be getting silenced. My films wouldn't even, they wouldn't even make an impact. They would never see the light of day. And, God bless Candace Owens. Candace Owens has a copy of this film. She's going to be putting it on our website. Like, it's all of us, like, basically like she calls it, decentralizing these investigations. Well, it's like decentralizing the network distribution. Instead of using these large conglomerates that won't give me the time of day, I've decentralized my network to all of you guys. So it's really people like you that come together. Again, my name is Ryan Matta. My film's over on X exclusively for the first 48 hours at Ryan Media, Matta Media over on X. We got it translated into 4 languages. It's in English, it's in Spanish, it's in Hindu, and it's in Chinese as well. So those are the top 4 languages in America. So everybody, I want to make sure that no matter who you are as an American citizen, you have the ability to understand this film and understand the threat levels that you are at if CPS shows up at your house on how you should respond. So again, Dale, I just want to say thank you so much, brother. It's been such an honor. I love these conversations. Anytime you want me back on, I got a packed week this next week, but after that, anytime you need a guest on your show, feel free to invite me out, man. I'll talk to you guys about anything.
All right, for sure. We'll take you up on that. I'll close here with a prayer, and then we'll close this down.
Good.
All right, Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. And Father, this day I ask of you to bless the movie that Ryan's putting out, that many people would come and start to understand this issue with the trafficking. And Father, let's raise up the men and the women, especially the men, to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, to stop this evil wickedness and the slavery of the children that needs to end, and to protect our families and to protect the women and children who need it the most is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, brother. God bless you, Dale. Thank you so much for having me, brother. Have a great day, man. Look forward to chatting with you later.
All right.
As Navy SEALs, one of our jobs is to conduct underwater attacks against enemy shipping. We practice this technique extensively during training. The ship attack mission is where a pair of SEAL divers is dropped off outside an enemy harbor and then swims well over 2 miles underwater, using nothing but a depth gauge and a compass to get to the target. During the entire swim, even well below the surface, there is some light that comes through. It is comforting to know that there is open water above you. But as you approach the ship, which is tied to a pier, the light begins to fade. The steel structure of the ship blocks the moonlight. It blocks the surrounding street lamps. It blocks all ambient light. To be successful in your mission, you have to swim under the ship and find the keel, the center line, and the deepest part of the ship. This is your objective. But the keel is also the darkest part of the ship, where you cannot see your hand in front of your face, where the noise from the ship's machinery is deafening, and where it gets to be easily disoriented, and you can fail. Every SEAL knows that under the keel, at that darkest moment of the mission, is a time when you need to be calm, when you must be calm, when you must be composed, when all your tactical skills, your physical power, and your inner strength must be brought to bear. If you want to change the world, you must be your very best in the darkest moments. The 9th week of training is referred to as Hell Week. It is 6 days of no sleep, constant physical and mental harassment, and one special day at the Mud Flats. The Mud Flats are an area between San Diego and Tijuana where the water runs off and creates the Tijuana Sloughs, a swampy patch of terrain where the mud will engulf you. It is on Wednesday of Hell Week that you paddle down to the Mud Flats and spend the next 15 hours trying to survive this freezing cold, the howling wind, and the incessant pressure to quit from the instructors. As the sun began to set that Wednesday evening, my training class, having committed some egregious infraction of the rules, was ordered into the mud. The mud consumed each man till there was nothing visible but our heads. The instructors told us we could leave the mud if only 5 men would quit. Only 5 men, just 5 men, and we could get out of the oppressive cold. Looking around the mud flat, it was apparent that some students were about to give up. It was still over 8 hours till the sun came up. 8 more hours of bone-chilling cold. The chattering teeth and the shivering moans of the trainees were so loud, it was hard to hear anything. And then one voice began to echo through the night. One voice raised in song. The song was terribly out of tune, but sung with great enthusiasm. One voice became 2, and 2 became 3, and before long, everyone in the class was singing. The instructors threatened us with more time in the mud if we kept up the singing, but the singing persisted, and somehow the mud seemed a little warmer, and the wind a little tamer, and the dawn not so far away. If I have learned anything in my time traveling the world, it is the power of hope. The power of one person, a Washington, a Lincoln, King, Mandela, and even a young girl from Pakistan, Malala. One person can change the world by giving people hope. So if you want to change the world, start singing when you're up to your neck in mud. Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. A brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swims. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out. If you want to change the world, don't ever ring the bell. It will not be easy. Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better. Thank you very much.